But he also hath bid, that if, after summons to submit, you still stand out and rebel, we should endeavour to take you by force. Then stood forth Captain Conviction, and said, his were the pale colours, and for escutcheon he had the book of the law wide open, etc. Hear, O man's soul! Thou, O man's soul, wast once famous for innocency, but now thou art degenerated into lies and deceit. Thou hast heard what my brother, the Captain Boanerges, hath said, and it is your wisdom, and will be your happiness, to stoop to and accept of conditions of peace and mercy when offered, specially when offered by one against whom thou hast rebelled, and one who is of power to tear thee in pieces, for so is Shaddai, our King. Nor when he is angry can anything stand before him. If you say you have not sinned, or acted rebellion against our King, the whole of your doings since the day that you cast off his service, and there was the beginning of your sin, will sufficiently testify against you. What else means your hearkening to the tyrant, and your receiving him for your king? What means else your rejecting of the laws of Shaddai, and your obeying of Diabolus? Yea, what means this your taking up of arms against, and the shutting of your gates upon us, the faithful servants of your king? Be ruled then, and accept of my brother's invitation, and overstand not the time of mercy, but agree with thine adversary quickly. Ah, man's soul, suffer not thyself to be kept from mercy, and to be run into 1,000 miseries by the flattering wiles of Diabolus. Perhaps that piece of deceit may attempt to make you believe that we seek our own profit in this our service. But no, it is obedience to our King, and love to your happiness, that is the cause of this undertaking of ours. Again I say to thee, O man's soul, consider if it be not amazing grace that Shaddai should so humble himself as he doth. Now he, by us, reasons with you, in a way of entreaty and sweet persuasions, that you would subject yourselves to him. Has he that need of you that we are sure you have of him? No, no. But he is merciful, and will not that man's soul should die, but turn to him and live. Then stood forth Captain Judgment, whose were the red colours, and for escutcheon he had the burning fiery furnace. And he said, O ye, the inhabitants of the town of Mansoul, that have lived so long in rebellion and acts of treason against the King Shaddai, know that we come not to-day to this place in this manner with our message of our own minds, or to revenge our own quarrel. It is the King, my master, that hath sent us to reduce you to your obedience to him, the which if you refuse in a peaceable way to yield, we have commission to compel you thereto. And never think of yourselves, nor yet suffer the tyrant Diabolus to persuade you to think, that our King, by his power, is not able to bring you down, and to lay you under his feet. For he is the former of all things, and if he touches the mountains, they smoke. Nor will the gate of the King's clemency stand always open, for the day that shall burn like an oven is before him. Yea, it hasteth greatly, it slumbereth not. O man's soul, is it little in thine eyes that our King doth offer thee mercy, and that after so many provocations? Yea, he still holdeth out his golden sceptre to thee, and will not yet suffer his gate to be shut against thee. Wilt thou provoke him to do it? If so, consider of what I say. To thee it is opened no more for ever. If thou sayest thou shalt not see him, yet judgment is before him. Therefore trust thou in him. Yea, because there is wrath, beware lest he take thee away with his stroke. Then a great ransom cannot deliver thee. Will he esteem thy riches? No, not gold, nor all the forces of strength. He hath prepared his throne for judgment, for he will come with fire, and with his chariots like a whirlwind, to render his anger with fury, and his rebukes with flames of fire. Therefore, O man's soul, take heed lest, after thou hast fulfilled the judgment of the wicked, justice and judgment should take hold of thee. Now while the Captain Judgment was making this oration to the town of Mansoul, it was observed by some that Diabolus trembled, but he proceeded in his parable and said, O thou woeful town of Mansoul, wilt thou not yet set open thy gate to receive us, the deputies of thy king, and those that would rejoice to see thee live? Can thine heart endure, or can thy hands be strong in the day that he shall deal in judgment with thee? I say, canst thou endure to be forced to drink, as one would drink sweet wine, the sea of wrath that our king has prepared for Diabolus and his angels? Consider betimes, consider. Then stood forth the fourth captain, the noble Captain Execution, and said, O town of Mansoul, once famous, but now like the fruitless bow, once the delight of the high ones, but now a den for Diabolus. Hearken also to me, and to the words that I shall speak to thee in the name of the great Shaddai. Behold, the axe is laid to the root of the trees. Every tree, therefore, that bringeth not forth good fruit is hewn down and cast into the fire. Thou, O town of Mansoul, hast hitherto been this fruitless tree. Thou bearest naught but thorns and briars. Thy evil fruit bespeaks thee not to be a good tree. Thy grapes are grapes of gall, thy clusters are bitter. Thou hast rebelled against thy king, and lo, we, the power and force of Shaddai, are the axe that is laid to thy root. What sayest thou? Wilt thou turn? I say again, tell me, before the first blow is given, wilt thou turn? Our axe must first be laid to thy root, before it be laid at thy root. It must first be laid to thy root in a way of threatening, before it is laid at thy root by way of execution. And between these two is required thy repentance. And this is all the time that thou hast. What wilt thou do? Wilt thou turn, or shall I smite? If I fetch my blow, Mansoul, down you go. For I have commission to lay my axe at as well as to thy roots. Nor will anything but yielding to our king prevent doing of execution. What art thou fit for, O Mansoul, if mercy preventeth not, but to be hewn down, and cast into the fire and burned? O Mansoul, patience and forbearance do not act for ever. A year, or 2 or 3 they may, but if thou provoke by a 3 years' rebellion, and thou hast already done more than this, then what follows but cut it down? Nay, after that thou shalt cut it down. And dost thou think that these are but threatenings, or that our king has not power to execute his words? Mansoul, thou wilt find that in the words of our king, when they are by sinners made little or light of, there is not only threatening, but burning coals of fire. Thou hast been a cumber ground long already, and wilt thou continue so still? Thy sin has brought this army to thy walls, and shall it bring in judgment to do execution into thy town? Thou hast heard what the captains have said, but as yet thou shuttest thy gates. Speak out, Mansoul, wilt thou do so still, or wilt thou accept of conditions of peace? These brave speeches of these 4 noble captains the town of Mansoul refused to hear. Yet a sound thereof did beat against ear gate, though the force thereof could not break it open. In fine, the town desired a time to prepare their answer to these demands. The captains then told them that if they would throw out to them one ill pause that was in the town, that they might reward him according to his works, then they would give them time to consider. But if they would not cast him to them over the wall of Mansoul, then they would give them none. For, said they, we know that, so long as ill pause draws breath in man's soul, all good consideration will be confounded, and nothing but mischief will come thereon. Then Diabolus, who was there present, being loath to lose his ill pause, because he was his orator, and yet be sure he had, could the captains have laid their fingers on him, was resolved at this instant to give them answer by himself. But then changing his mind, he commanded the then Lord Mayor, the Lord Incredulity, to do it, saying, My lord, do you give these renegades an answer, and speak out, that Mansoul may hear and understand you. So Incredulity, at Diabolus's command, began and said, Gentlemen, you have here, as we do behold, to the disturbance of our prince and the molestation of the town of Mansoul camped against it. But from whence you come we will not know, And what you are we will not believe. Indeed, you tell us in your terrible